Okay, so we're first thing off the bat, yesterday I made a video after reading the first 25 books of Genesis. Um, Two things I was wrong about. Two AMs. One is that the Old Testament is longer than the New Testament. The New Testament is not longer than the Old Testament. Um, I didn't even question that. But but then I was Googling something, and I saw how many verses and chapters and books are in each, and yeah. So second thing is, I Googled why does God ask questions if He is omniscient, and that was kind of a main thing in my video. You know what? I scratch that. I mean, obviously, it's hard to ever say like, oh, here's this issue with God, because the goalposts are always moved, or part of his definition always becomes, include something that makes your objection irrelevant. And I accept this one. Of course, that's the nature of talking about God, is that it's always going to happen, I think. But anyway, so Got Questions, this biblical website, says the questions God asks, of course, always serve a purpose. He does not ask to obtain information. Um, yeah. So after Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit and hid themselves, God called out, "Where are you?" Of course, God knew Adam's physical location. That wasn't the point of the question. The question was designed to draw Adam out of hiding. God could have approached his sinful creation in anger with harsh words of condemnation and instant judgment, but he did not. Instead, God approached Adam with a question and showed his grace, gentleness, and desire for reconciliation. That's not singing for me. After reading 25 chapters of Genesis, God's not that much about showing his grace, gentleness, and desire for reconciliation. That said, I'm sorry, hold on, because I've been looking for, hold on. All right, we're going to do this together right now. I've noticed this a lot in reality TV series. Someone says, you did this last week, and then you do blank the next week. That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of times there was actually either new information or new values. One of those added in. Something changed. And I think that this is an example of what I call flattening. And so what I was about to do, so let's talk about what I was about to say. Let's talk about what happened in here, because there was some flattening that happened in here. By the way, flattening is not a thing that the brain does. It's not like a choice. It's just like the nature of the way that the brain works, that it's not developed enough. The human brain isn't developed enough. I mean, obviously, because the human brain is as developed as it is, there is less flattening that happens than a less intelligent, or a less, or even within the human brain spectrum. I think the more intelligent you are, the less flattening that happens. But still, even the most intelligent person is doing a tremendous amount of flattening, because that's just where we're at in our biological evolution. And tremendous, what I mean by that, because it has to be relative, right? Because we're never going to not flatten. So what I mean by that is that we flatten tremendously more than we realize, and our flattening is detrimental to the tasks we take on, such as argumentation. So, for instance, if I were to go on the silly errand of trying to argue with, about God or about the Bible or something, or, with this stuff, then here's what I was saying, is that I was going to say or what already had delivered here was, um, so it says here, instead, let's see a screenshot. Oh shit. Oh no, that wasn't for that. Okay. All right. So, it says here. Here we go. Okay. So the claim is the justification. So what? All right, we should be able to do this. Okay. Let's just write down the sentence. God, and this is maybe going to help us with Dialyris. God approached Adam with a question. Can we rephrase this and say, well, we'll write down the original. And so showed, oh, and so showed, oh, and by doing that showed, okay. So let's say, so God approached Adam with a question. That's one statement. Let's call that P maybe. Q is P in order to show, no, okay. Let's say Q is God has grace. No, God is graceful, is of grace, gentle, and desires reconciliation. So that's claim Q. And then claim A is P in order to demonstrate Q. All right. So my objection is not with statement A, with the whole statement, because the whole statement is statement A. Okay. I have no issue with P, which is a part of statement A, and I have no issue. But my issue is with Q, that God is of grace, gentle, and desires reconciliation. I think we just made some progress. Because actually, that's not necessarily Q. Let's say Q prime is God equals grace, gentleness, and reconciliation will. Now, and then Q double prime is God equals G R always, and Q triple prime can be G equals GGR in later chapters. So I have, so if you use Q prime in your A, then I can't say anything. There's nothing in chapters 1, 2, or 3, at least leading up to Adam coming out of hiding. and explaining what's going on. There's nothing in there to show by my human perspective, that God doesn't have, there's no counter evidence to that ethic. That's the other thing I want to talk to you about. So the ethic is, so this is the ethic. And then we find that we've got these prime ethics. And when we look at these prime ethics, we realize that if they say, "Oh, we're just saying he's full of grace, gentleness, and reconciliation now," and I say, I would say I can't disagree with that, because for me the ethic was that he is full of grace in later chapters, or always, even forever. Let's put forever as Q double prime. So then we can figure out in the future some language or some way to describe. Okay, so basically what we've done here is we've disambiguated the ethic. And found the ethic was actually ethic disambiguation. And then that reveals it was a faux ethic. It was the ethic was I don't know, distributed, or I don't know. It was a conflated ethic. I don't know. Okay. Now, here's what I mean by flattening. Flattening is the fact that Q prime, whether you have Q prime, Q double prime, or Q triple prime, I should be putting, I'll take a photo, and maybe that's my background. Maybe that's been my background the whole time. Q prime, Q double prime, and Q triple prime all include nuances that were flattened out that we don't see in Q. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say about flattening. And so flattening, it's when you lose a nuance that is significant to the discussion. I don't know. I've also got this term bleeding. Maybe we can say that, I don't know. Flattening example, maybe. So in any case, if we suppose that they are actually saying Q prime, then okay, what do you say when it's not that it sings, but you have no follow-up? Maybe it does choke, maybe it bothers you, but can we just say, okay, no counter? Okay, no op. Okay, no op. Because in the mind we have these its that I call op-its. So one it can op another it, and that means that they conflict. So if you're talking to someone and you have no counter argument or something, what you can do is you can say, okay, that chokes. Like, that doesn't seem right to me, but can't articulate why. And by the way, do not be that guy who's like, that is wrong, but I can't articulate why. No, if you can't articulate why, then you can't make that claim. And I'm sorry, and maybe it is true that what the person said was wrong, but if you can't articulate it, there's no point in making the claim. But what you can say is something about me, something in here is saying it's wrong. Okay, so you say, okay, that shows, but no op. Okay, that. But in this case, it would be, okay, that sings, so no op. Because, yeah, that works for me. You're just talking about that he was had grace and all that then. Okay, now, we've been all over the place. This could be watched in a whole bunch of different kinds of orders. Essek. So here's actually why I want to record this video. So I got the things out of the way. I was wrong about the. So I'm hesitating because I'm trying to use my own language to express error, things that would be easier for y'all to say. I was wrong about that the New Testament is longer than the Old Testament. I was sure I was completely wrong. Now, but that's going to be hard for other people to say and things like that. So, and also it does feel weird, and I want to admit wrongness without weirdness because then I'll admit it more often. So anyway, so another way of saying that is an interjection to indicate having understood something explained by the other speaker, particularly something previously not or misunderstood. So regarding C then, I think C, maybe we can say you can use it for either when you now agree and you previously disagreed, or when you now believe and you previously did not believe. And then understanding for I, A-Y-E, I, and you can say Pama. Pardon my mallet, an expression of acknowledgement and regret for a livered mallet, which means excuse my mallet, which is just something in here that wasn't good. And so in this case, we'll talk about the yit. Yit, a memory or knowledge it, often formulated reflexively. If this is true, then this is true. The knowledge yit that the New Testament was longer. Pama, I, and you say the AM, PM, AM. PM, the first or most ready response to a prompt. AM, one, a way in which the PM could better respond to the prompt, and two, a better response. And you say the AM for my PM was, hey, the New Testament is longer. Turns out that PM needs an AM, needs some follow up. And the AM is, so my new PM now that I've seen the AM here, my new PM is, so we'll call this an amp. Call it an amp. A PM recently created by a recent AM to that person's PM, previous PM to previous PM. Amp. Okay, so that's an amp. There you go. It's a new for some reason I thought it was APM amp. I wrote amp, but I'm just realizing amp has an M and then a P, obviously. And that's like flattening. That's flattening. I got really excited because I was like, yo, AM, PM, amp. That's amazing. I had lost that nuance of the order. Yo, there's an AM, an A, an M, and a P there. There's a P, an A, and an M, blah, blah, blah. Great. Letters in common. That's a flattening. I lost that nuance. Okay. In any case, amp still works for me. Yeah, it works really well. And amp is a relative term. It's like, now that you've learned, what do you say now? What do you say is true now that you've learned that before it was what you, yeah, okay. Um, the what do you call it in a publication? Retraction, a correction, the revision, the revised, um, the revised move. So you give a PM. So person gives a PM. Other person gives an AM for that, and then original person gives an amp to show the yeah. Okay. And when it's in that sequence, that's what you call it. When you're referring to the context of your thing was wrong, you got the information, now what do you say? Okay. I don't know whether I'm just creating words just because I get off on it, or whether they are useful, and whether part of my frustrations in life are feeling like we haven't had the concepts and labels that we need. And well, they just don't evolve that fast. Slang evolves so quickly, but the way that we talk about things doesn't. Despite all that we know about psychology, we still talk about the mind as though it's this, as though we still say, "Oh, there was this argument between my heart and my mind." We still say stuff like that. We still talk about the sun setting and the sun rising, tides going in and out, all that stuff. I mean, some of it's fine if it's like point of reference stuff. Okay, maybe a sunset and stuff is fine. So we don't need to figure out a way to say, "Oh, hey, the Earth is turned. This part of the Earth is turned." But for this stuff, I think that we do. Anyway, whether I'm doing it just because I get off on it or it's useful, look, that's not for me to say. And I honestly don't put it in the comments. I don't really care, because, hey, what else am I doing my time? Unless you see me making up words for a certain concept and you already know words that are used for that concept, tell me that. Tell me where I can find that. And then the other thing is, you can refocus me if I'm inventing words for one thing, but I need to be inventing words for another thing. But it's okay if I'm inventing words uselessly. I'm not. I'm not taking up space. Okay. ESSIC. All right. So this is okay. So an amp. I'll take it further. Okay. Now an ESSIC. So here's why I record this video, because I want to talk about how shocked I've been. So I'm doing the New Living Translation. I want to talk about how shocked I've been by these colonialist assholes. And I described yesterday how it just feels like Genesis was written by it's like some fan fiction for like some first person syndrome, or not first, main character syndrome writer who's just like really immature and kind of dumb, and it's like, as a reader, like, how is Abraham so special? Why is he? And like, specifically, there are all these other humans who are also descendants of Noah, right? So God raised the earth with the flood. Noah has a bunch of descendants. Noah, by the way, was the only person who was saved. It was his family that was chosen because he was the only righteous man left on earth. And so then his kids populate the world. And then generations later, all of those kids, they're no longer God's children. They're no longer the descendants of the most righteous person on earth before the flood. They're the other. And it's so fucking weird it just keeps happening that there's this very small in group and this very large out group. And it's like, but how? They're supposed to all be God's children. So, I mean, it's certainly not an ensemble cast. Like, you have a number of different protagonists through the first 27 books of Genesis, or chapters of Genesis, but um all the other, like, this Albumet guy, like, so sad. Are we not feeling for him? So first we have chapter 20. Abraham deceives Albumet. So Abraham's like, oh, Albumet's got to be a piece of shit, and people, all the children of God in his kingdom are absolute shit. So if they know that my wife is my wife, well, they're gonna want to be with her. So they're gonna kill me to have her. So I'm gonna lie and tell them she's my sister. So that's how he deceives Abimah. And then King Abi, does, take his wife, but just doesn't kill Abraham because he doesn't think he needs to, because he thinks his wife, Sarah, is Abram. Is it Abram or Abraham here? Abraham's sister. All right, so Abraham gets rich off of King Abi's gifts. In exchange, King Abi is doing the deeds with his wife. So yeah, so then King Abi's like, he has this dream from God. God tells him what's going on. In fact, this is so funny. I think this is such a funny exchange. But that night, God came to King Abi in a dream and told him, "You are dead, man, for that woman you have taken is already married." But Abi had not slept with her yet. So he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Didn't Abraham tell me she's my sister?" And she herself said, "Yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean." So in the dream, God responds, "Yeah, I know you are innocent." I think God misread the paperwork for the chart. And then King Abi's like, "Whoa. First of all, I was deceived. And second of all, I haven't actually even touched her." Yeah, but Agamemnon cannot slept with her. So he's like, "Wait, whoa, stop, 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 stop. I haven't touched her, number one. And number two, I had no idea she was his wife and couldn't have known." And so God, who had just said, "You are a dead man, for that woman you have taken is already married," he then goes, "Yes, no, I know you are innocent." And I guess we'll maybe my bad. We've already talked about this. Okay, my bad. I'm assuming that what God says reflects what he thinks and knows. But no, he was just saying that in order to something, I guess. Okay. So in the dream, God responded, "Yes, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me, and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and all your people will die." And this just goes back to Q double prime. Like, grace? Goodness? Reconciliation? All right, so then King Abi's like, "All right, what the fuck, dude?" He goes over to Abraham. He goes, "What have you done to us?" And by the way, his men were absolutely terrified after they heard about this dream, King Abi's men. So he goes to Abraham. It's like, "What have you done to us? What crime have I committed that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? No one should ever do what you have done. Whatever possessed you to do such a thing?" And so then here's the in-group out-group of Abraham. I didn't actually note it here. And the whole thing reads like this because Abraham is sort of our protagonist here. Or maybe I shouldn't be applying a literary lens to the Word of God. I don't know. But as I'm reading this, I feel like I'm supposed to be with Abraham, and I feel like Abraham's like the main guy, and everybody else is his enemies. But then that's the whole tone of the whole thing, and that seems unjustified. Anyway, so Abraham replied, he tells King Abi, well, look, I thought this was a godless place. They will want my wife and will kill me to get her. And she really is my sister, by the way, for we both have the same father, but different mothers. And I married her. And yeah, so I told her to tell everybody that she's my brother, and she is my half brother, by the way, or that to tell her that I'm her brother, and by the way, I am her half brother. Forgot about that. So then King Abi gives Abraham a bunch of gifts, and he gives 1,000 pieces of silver to Abraham for Sarah, and for any wrong I may have done to you. All right, so he got really screwed over there. By the way, God had made all of the women, including King Abi's wife, sterile, infertile. But so Abraham was like, all right, you know what? This other, I fucked him over and he gave me a bunch of gifts. He's not too bad. Well, why don't you let, so then he asked God to do that. So then God healed King Abi, his wife, and his female servants so they could have children. For the Lord, all right, and then you're thinking, oh, well, maybe this was just a part of the exchange. How do you know that the infertility had anything to do with the Lord? Well, because Genesis 20:18, the very next verse says, "For the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what happened with Abraham's wife Sarah, except nothing had happened." And this is the kind of stuff this is the way that we would like talk about the outgroup, like the imbalances in here, and then also just like the colonizing, and Abraham just is bouncing around the Middle East, getting rich, and we're gonna get to Esek in a second. But one thing I want to tell you about is guess what? And this is gonna make you laugh, because that's what Isaac means. Or is that Ishmael? Does Isaac mean laugh? Because then, yeah, and I was like, why is Sarah getting so upset that people are laughing about Isaac? His name means laugh. That's okay. Anyway, so Isaac is definitely means like laughter or peace or something, both or something. I don't know. Anyway, so let's take a look at chapter 26, verse 12. And this says conflict over water rights. Because again, God's just been like, yo, Abraham, you and your descendants, you're my dudes. All my other children, fuck them. All the other descendants of Noah, fuck them. They're the enemy, bro. And we're just not even, just listen to this. And this is not the only example. This is just the example where I was like, all right, I have to record this. So verse 12, when Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father, Abraham. Finally, King Abi ordered Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere else, he said. Oh, wait. Before this, though, Isaac did the same shit to King Abi as Abraham had done. So I'll just read you a snippet from that. So King Abi goes, no. So we'll go to at the end of verse 9. Isaac goes, because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me. Verse 10. How could you do this to us? King Abi exclaimed. One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin. Then King Abi issued a public proclamation. Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death. So, all right. So now conflict over water rights. Okay. So King Abi has been deceived again. Isaac was like, yo, this is my sister. I don't know whether it's actually his half-sister or whatever. And here it doesn't say that, as was the case for his father. Um, but I'm getting very hot. We're gonna stop soon. Um, um, right. Okay. So he becomes a very rich man. He has all this stuff. Philistines are jealous. King Abi goes, "Yo, can you leave? Can you go somewhere else? Because you've become way too powerful for us." But here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. That reminds me of something beneficial to all nations. Yeah. So in when Isaac deceives King Abi in chapter 26, in verse 4, he makes the same sort of promises to Isaac that he had made to Abraham. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands. Same covenant he had with Abraham. And through your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. It's so funny because, I mean, maybe it's only going to be through his descendants, but Isaac has gotten a whole bunch of wealth, and he's not sharing it with his country. In fact, he's gotten too rich, and he's already screwed these people over a couple times, or at least the king over. And the king's just like, go elsewhere. I don't need a benefit from your thing. And in fact, it's them that's benefited from other kingdoms. Isaac, Abraham, they've gotten all these gifts and all this stuff. It's pretty wild. So I don't know. I mean, it just really reads like if I hadn't heard about this before, I would just be absolutely certain. It would be very obvious to me that at some point in the last 50 years and last 70 years with this Israel Palestine conflict, some dude wrote a book to justify like why it's their land, and he didn't work that hard on it. Or not, yeah, in the book, yeah, Genesis. So he just goes through thousands of years, and then there was like this flood. Blah blah blah. Blah. Anyway, here's the big thing. Then there was this main character dude, Abraham, and he was like God's chosen dude. And look, I can tell you a bunch of stories about how he got rich and other people were screwed and blah blah blah. And then Isaac, and look, and God just keeps saying the descendants blah blah. So there you go. I would absolutely believe that. I'm having trouble appreciating that this was written long before the Jews wanted to lay claim to have an ethno state in the Middle East. Anyway, but Isaac was gracious enough to leave after King Abi asked him to. But here's the funny thing. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water, like Christopher Columbus discovered. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. This is our water, they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Essek, which means argument. So I want to use this as our main point of contention. That's the Essek. And you always have to identify the Essek in a conversation and then also try to disambiguate it. Make sure through defining your terms, through checking with nuances, through offering Essek primes that kind of come to mind, because it kind of came to mind that really I'm talking about always. So that Essek prime came to mind. Okay, anyway. So they argued about it. And Isaac did not say to his men, at least it's not included here. There's no showing of gentleness, grace, and reconciliation here, where Isaac goes, yo, can't argue with these people. This is on their land. That's their water. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one. So he did abandon them, and that's good. That's good. So he did move away. So is that what we just need to recreate in the Middle East? An ESSEC convention, or thing, and just have the Palestinians go, oh yeah, 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 so um this was our land. Yeah. Okay. It's it doesn't matter if it was someone's land um in the past, by the way. We're only talking about at the moment. So when Israel, the state, was created, there were people there doing their thing, including Jews. Um, yeah. So I mean, and also that's another example of flattening. We act like the Palestinians, including Palestinian Jews and everyone, and the Israelites have equal claim to the land because at some point they have occupied the land. First of all, there's never been an ethno state, so Israelites in like Zionists, that's never existed. So there have been Jews there, and nobody's trying to kick the Jews out anyway. Oh my gosh, such a simple, or it. Gosh, we're just so dumb. I just got a little bit tangled up there because anyway, there's I think I just came across two examples of flattening. One is that we act like if you were there first and then they were there second, then whoever tries to take it now, no, then those, it's always obviously the most recent claim is the one that matters. Now you could be saying, oh, well, Israel's land claim, right? But it was a problematic claim. Um, or it is a problematic claim. You could say, well, yeah, but the Israelites getting kicked out of Egypt, that was problematic. Right. And so then they could have fought that. That wasn't fought. They found another solution. So then the claim stuck. Yeah, because there is such a thing as a claim sort of sticking after if once the dispute is settled. But then what I say that means that Native Americans can't go on some reproduction campaign and try to take over the U.S. I would say that. I would say that. I think we are continuing to really fuck them over. We are not giving them the resources that they need. I wouldn't be upset. Anyway, the point is though that still, yeah, no, the American claim is settled now. I mean, the United States, that's the conflict's over. Every time you introduce a new conflict, it's you that's the problem. I don't know. I am simplifying some things and so on. But anyway, we're not. That's not what we're talking about now. We're not talking about that. So, oh gosh, should we talk about that? No. I'm hot. I'm a little bit hungry. Yeah, I'm very hungry. I'm tired. I'm dizzy. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. So I just thought that was funny that all this stuff about all this wealth and not sharing it and going in this land and thinking it's yours. And they really are sort of the children of Abraham. Anyway.